He's the visionary behind tournaments in this area that are of worldwide and epic proportions. I'm very excited to spend the next half hour to 45 minutes with a gentleman, a scholar, a visionary, just an all-around nice dude on the I Love Seville show today. If you want to give this guy some props, some praise, share some perspective for Coach Ron Minella, please put it in the feed. I will relay it on air. I first met this gentleman fresh out of the University of Virginia, a rookie reporter for the Daily Progress sports department under Hootie Ratcliffe. And Hootie says, Jerry, you're going to go cover this tennis tournament over at the Boar's Head. Look for a guy who looks like Santa Claus and he'll take good care of you. And next thing I know, I'm talking to Ron Minella in 2003.
Yeah. Oh.
2003, 2004. So very excited to have him on the show. Before we start the program, Ron, how you feeling?
I'm feeling really good, and thank you for having me on the show. This is going to be a good time. Thank you very much.
It's going to be super fun. Judah Wickower, we're completely in your hands. We can rock and roll and start the program when you are ready. Give me 10 seconds. Johnny Ornelas, the owner of Guadalajara and El Mariachi, welcome to the program. Short Pump, welcome to the show. Lynchburg, welcome to the program. Ivy, hello and welcome to the broadcast. I see Crozet and Richmond and McLean, Arlington on the heat map now on the program. Atlanta, welcome to the show. Naples, Florida, welcome to the show. Give the program a like and a share anywhere you're watching. Margaret Larrymore is watching in Scottsville, Virginia. Randy, hello and welcome to the program. We love when you watch the program, Randy. Judah Wickower, we can rock and roll when you're ready. Good Monday afternoon, guys. My name is Jerry Miller, and welcome to the I Love Seville show, where we showcase the best of Charlottesville and Central Virginia and beyond. Today's program undoubtedly embodies those qualities. Coach Ron Minella in the house. We're going to welcome this gentleman to the program in T-minus 25 seconds for what should be just absolutely compelling conversation when it comes to the sport of tennis, the evolution of tennis in this area, and frankly speaking, Ron Minella's 3 generations of influence in this sport, and not only Charlottesville, not only Central Virginia, but folks, students and kids that have gone on to play colleges all over the country, his influence on bringing big-time tournaments to the Boar's Head Resort. So much I want to cover. If you know this program, you know I'm a passionate racket and paddle sports enthusiast, and I've been looking forward to this interview for some time. Folks, Ting Fiber Internet is the crazy fast internet behind the I Love Seville network. We love our friends at Ting Fiber Internet. We love our friends at Scott Wagner Integrated Medicine. Dr. Wagner changing people's lives. And if you want to give props to Coach Minella, just like New York Todd is doing right now, NY Todd watching the program, just put your props, your comments, your praise in the feed, and I will relay them live on air to Ron Minella, one of the A-plus guys in the business. Judah Wickower, let's go to the studio camera first and then the 2-shot, and welcome Ron Minella to the program. Good afternoon, Ron.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure. For the few that don't know who you are, and I legitimately mean this, very few in this community, introduce yourself to everybody that's watching.
Well, hi, I'm Ron Minella, and been living in Charlottesville and loved Charlottesville for a long time. I couldn't say I recently moved here because I moved here in the mid-'70s from Erie, Pennsylvania. I was getting really tired of that cold weather, and I had a brother who was living in Culpeper, and started to look around for places to live, and my brother said, I hear this little town, what's the name, Hookville? No, it was Charlottesville. So he told me to check it out, and came down here, and we checked it out, and here I am in Charlottesville.
This guy grew up in a blue-collar town.
Yes, Western Pennsylvania.
Western Pennsylvania, initially scoffed at the sport of tennis.
Yeah, you know, with my age and those times, and you're a Western PA boy, I mean, we produced great football players and quarterbacks and great basketball teams. And so if you didn't play basketball pretty well or football pretty well, it was a tough life. And so tennis, I never really thought about tennis, especially as a young kid, and then went away to a private Catholic boarding school for high school. And they were a really good tennis team, and they had this big turnover. And
was it a priest that introduced you to the sport?
Monsignor.
A Monsignor.
So he was like the headmaster. And so he saw that I was like an athlete, that I could play football and basketball, and says, "Hey, I need some athletes, and I would really like for you to try out for tennis in the spring." And I looked at the Monsignor and I said, "No, I don't think so. I'm not playing that sissy sport." And he says, "Okay, well, I'll tell you what, why don't you meet me on the tennis courts tomorrow, and I'll show you who this is."
And he beat you like a drum.
Just pulverized me. So that was it. So I realized, oh my God, this sport is so hard. It requires so much. And that was it. And so started playing tennis in high school, and then had played at an NAIA school, which is now Division III, Gannon University in Erie, Pennsylvania. I played 4 years there and had a nice career, 4-year letterman. It was fun. And then I moved. I was in the guidance and counseling field, worked a little at that, and then I realized, I don't know. So I moved to Charlottesville, found a job with community attention, which was wonderful, and then it all changed. I was doing some part-time work to try to boost my income, and I was working for Parks and Recreation, city parks in Albemarle County, the YMCA, and then the YMCA offered me a full-time tennis job when they were at Four Seasons, so this was a long time ago. And so I went, and then that was pretty much the start.
Here's the cool aspect of this program, guys. You can offer some props to Ron Minella by leaving your thoughts in the feed. For example, Ryan Smith is watching the show. He said, "I used to work at Boar's Head Sports Club back in 2007, and he's giving Ron with all exclamation points and giving you some props right now on the program. We'll welcome some folks outside Nashville, Tennessee to the show. Southwestern Pennsylvania is in the house. I wonder why that is. Ron Minella's on the program over here. I'll get to the comments and the praise and the props. Just leave them in the feed and we'll mention them on air. Tennis in Charlottesville, tennis in Central Virginia. They go hand in hand with the Minella family. We will get to the first family of Commonwealth and Virginia tennis, the Minellas, in a matter of moments. First, tennis and what it means to you, Ron.
Well, it's always been in my blood. I've just always had a passion for it. And I think any tennis teacher, any coach has to have that passion. You have to care, and you have to feel it every day in your blood. And it's always been that passion that has driven me. So here I am at my age. I'm still learning off of these coaches' blogs. It's been really good. And what tennis has done for me is that I've been able to reach people and create relationships through tennis, and to make them feel good about themselves and become better people, and most of the time a better tennis player.
How about tennis and COVID? Tennis and COVID, much like golf and COVID, tailwinds and momentum behind the sport. Golf, in a lot of ways, prior to the pandemic, was seeing engagement drop. Mm-hmm. And the pandemic, if you think about it, tennis, in a lot of ways, I mean, you can't think of safer sports to play during a pandemic. You're holding a racket that is pretty long. Right. You're swinging it around your body.
Yes.
So someone can't get close to you when you're swinging a racket, just like a golf club. Someone's not going to get close. You're probably playing outside the majority of the time all year long. So very COVID-friendly sports. How did you see the pandemic drive positive momentum behind tennis?
Well, it was nice because the media tested a lot of how much it's growing as a result of the pandemic. So tennis balls went up, racket sales went up, and those were the things that were telling people that, hey, it's growing. I think there was like 60% more people were playing tennis. And yes, when we first tried to get it back, some clubs played all the way through it. So at the Boar's Head, we opened up our outdoor courts at the time. People were wearing masks. Everybody brought a can of balls with their initial on it. So when they served, they were able to touch their ball. When they were done, the other person got their balls. And it worked really well. It was becoming so safe, and it was outside. And I think it really helped a lot of people through the whole pandemic.
From like a mental health standpoint.
Yeah, just so mental health that it was just it was nice to get out and do it.
Tennis and your family. I mean, at one time, you have 3 kids?
4.
4 kids. At one time, you and all 4 of your children were employed within this sport of some capacity.
Right. So, first of all, my daughter Anna worked for the USTA Virginia and USTA Mid-Atlantic, and she was a event administrator. So she would run all the league tournaments, when people move on to districts and all that kind of stuff. So she was there for a while out of Roanoke, and she really liked that, and it was really nice that she was in it. And I was just so proud as a dad to have all my kids in tennis, which was really nice. My son Danny was in tennis. He was a pro up near Leesburg for a while, and he wanted to change his career, so he wanted to make a little bit more money, so he's now a physician assistant outside of Boulder, but still an avid tennis player, and he played Division I at ODU. And my daughter was just a very accomplished high school player, and now she's out of tennis, just raising her daughter and living in Denver. And then Joey, my youngest son, he had an outstanding playing career at CNU, Christopher Newport, and then went on to get into coaching. He was his first coaching job was the head coach of the men's and women's at Lynchburg University, which was a lot of fun for him. And he moved on to an assistant job at East Carolina. Then he was here at UVA, won a championship ring with the University of Virginia, then he was a volunteer assistant and associate this and that. Then he worked for John Roddick, UCF, who's a top 10 team, and then he went to University of Michigan under Adam Steinberg, and then played at the university. I was assistant coach at the University of Iowa.
I love it. I love it. We'll get to some comments now, guys. If you want to give Ron some props, just put them in the feed. This is from MJ Arquette. Ron is the absolute best. I worked at Boar's Head in the marketing department from 2010 to 2015, and he was always such a joy to be around. Not to mention super talented. You rock, Ron. Tina Hopkins giving you some props as we speak. Welcome to the program, Tina Hopkins. We got folks at Montauk on Long Island watching the program literally right now on the show. So much to cover, guys, on the program. Let's talk about this tournament that's going on at the Boar's Head. I had the pleasure yesterday of catching it with my wife and my son. It was my son's first tennis tournament. Class situation. COVID vax cards at the door or a negative test required, about as safe as you could humanly get for a tennis tournament. I was watching a 21-year-old from Great Britain from the Andy Murray Academy play against somewhat of a journeyman and Mr. Galloway from South Carolina. I'm literally on the first row watching this tournament in this intimate setting, just like I'm a competitive guy. I love all sports across the board, and I'm just soaking this in. And then I look over and my 3.5-year-old, I'm getting a little choked up, right? My 3.5-year-old little boy was sitting next to me just like a sponge watching it too. And at that moment, I was just like, this is dad heaven. It's absolute dad heaven right there. The tournament and everything you have going on now, Ron.
Okay. Before, I just want to mention my last son, Dominic, who's the head coach at Old Dominion University, and he's been very successful there. And
you don't miss a match, do you?
No, I've been going till being kind of semi-retired, I finally can see almost all of his matches, and that's so exciting. And he has a great team and is out there competing very well. He's bringing players to the ITA Nationals this week in San Diego, so
that's
it's
big
exciting.
time.
And then the tournament. Oh man, when I retired, it would if I fully retired, it meant giving up the women's tournament and the men's tournament. And I said, no, I really don't want to do that. So I'm staying on staff as part-time. I could still teach out there, but I haven't been back on the court. But I'm running these 2 tournaments, and the men are here, and this is so exciting, such an exciting time. We at the Boar's Head are so happy, that we can give this tournament back to the community, and we've had for 11 seasons. The women, we've done it for 20 years. So it's a great tournament with great players, and it's doing exactly what we wanted to do. When I just heard your story about you and your son, that's what it's all about. That's how you grow the game. And tennis is just growing the game. And right now racket sports are growing in all different directions.
So this tournament, the players, I mean, you got folks from Japan, you got folks from across the pond in England, you got a former, was it top 10 player?
Yes.
In the tournament right now. I saw, now he's not playing in the tournament, I saw Treat Huey.
Treat Huey,
yeah.
He's playing doubles.
He is playing doubles in the tournament.
He's playing doubles,
okay.
And he's playing with Freddie Nielsen, who's a former Grand Slam champion in doubles.
I mean, you have big-time talent. Give us some highlights of who some of the top talented players are in this tournament and in tournaments past.
Oh, geez, tournaments past, it might be really tough to remember all of them. But this one, we're still in the qualifying round right now.
Uh-huh.
And Dennis Kudla, who's a Virginia guy, Northern Virginia guy, and he's playing in the tournament. And Dennis is actually ranked 90. But he had a late entry into the main draw, so he likes coming to Charlottesville and playing this tournament so much, he's actually playing the qualifying. So here's Kudla, who's had a very successful career in tennis, and he's 90 in the world. And he's here. And then Freddie Nielsen's playing doubles, former Grand Slam champion. Tret, who's been highly ranked in doubles in the top 10. And then we have Vasek Pospisil. He's 60 in the world. And he's here, he tells me, because he loves Charlottesville, but he's also here to defend some points. And so it's nice to have him. And in the past, oh my God, we've had Nishikori played here. We've had so many players, I can't even think of them off the top of the head.
You had Anna Kournikova.
Oh, yeah.
In the women's tournament. I covered that for the Daily Progress in the sports department. People hanging from tree limbs to watch this dynamic and beautiful tennis player. I mean, that was like the Beatles came to the Boar's Head.
That was interesting. I think it surprised us all. And literally, there were people in the trees.
Literally.
They were in the trees watching. It's amazing the impact she had on tennis. And that was her last.
She retired.
Professional tournament.
So in a lot of ways, and I'm making a music reference again, the Boar's Head in your tournament was like her Madison Square Garden for like some top music band,
right. Right.
She retired after playing your tournament. How did that. What did it feel like to have Kournikova and that fan base watching that tourney?
It was great. And, she was definitely, the publicity around her was just huge. And but she came in a couple days early to practice. But Anna Kournikova was so nice. If a young player, an adult, or anybody wanted a picture with her, an autograph, anything, selfies,
or a mid-20s reporter.
That's right.
Okay, because I got my pick.
She was just out there, just talking to everybody. So it was actually a pleasure. So there's the other side. Oh my God, Anna Kournikova played it. The Boar's Head. But the nice thing is, it was just this wonderful lady who had a great tennis career, and I would just remember as just being this kind passionate person who was just so nice to everybody.
How about the facility? I mean, the facility is just breathtaking. I mean, your clay courts, some of the best in the Commonwealth. Your indoor courts, I've heard from everybody, their mother, their uncle, their brother, their sister, are the place to play in the winter. I mean, the facility and having the time you've spent at the Boar's Head, Ron.
Well, yes, it grew a lot since I was there. It was just the tennis court, the tennis building and fitness, and then there was 10 clay courts, 4 hard courts, and there was 3 indoors. And then we had a bubble that was on 3 courts. And then tennis was fortunately growing and the foundation decided to do some expansion. So that's when we got to 12 indoor courts. And now, and yes, they are by far some of the nicest in the country. And we take really good care of them and resurface them often. And it's a beautiful facility. We've hosted national indoor ITA championships there. So, and then now University of Virginia just built their 6 outdoor tennis courts there, which adds to the Boar's Head and its beauty with a great scoreboard. And they're in the process now of building a stadium court out there. So,
I was enjoying, you guys did a hell of a job with the truck or treating event. And on Friday evening, my family and I were watching Charlie Brown on the big screen at the UVA tennis facility.
I was out there when I was leaving, I went out there and saw all this action. I stayed for like.
It was awesome.
It was really awesome. I was so impressed with this trunk thing. I didn't know what they were talking about. And then I saw all these cars parked with their trunks open and passing out candy. I thought it was a great idea.
It was a great idea. We were one of them. Daniel Leake has given you some props. Ron Minella is simply the best. He does so much for the Special Olympics. Why don't we highlight your efforts for the Special Olympics and why you enjoy working alongside the Special Olympics?
Well, Special Olympics has definitely been a life changer. So it was, I don't know, 12, 13 years ago, maybe even longer, that Barbara Freed and her husband had a vision of trying, because her son Jonathan was the top Special Olympics player in the world, but there wasn't a lot of competition for those players, and her vision was to create opportunities for these better players, and then thus she came to me and we created the Experience Tournament. And the Experience Tournament is bringing 32 of the top players in the country to this tournament, depending on their availability. And at times we've even had people top players from Switzerland and some international. So then, so I really wasn't around much with the Special Olympic athlete, and everybody said, you'll get it once you're around a little. Well, meaning you'll just pick up this vibe that these athletes just put out. That's just wonderful. And I was thinking, oh, okay. And then once you're around them for a couple of days, then it's like amazing. It's really a life changer. So I've been fortunate to do this Experience Tournament at the Boar's Head for a number of years, and then in 2018, I was named the Virginia State coach for Special Olympics and took players to Seattle. And then after that, I was named the USA national coach, and I took a whole team of athletes from around the country to Abu Dhabi for 3 weeks. So that was just, first of all, Seattle made me a better man. And then going to Abu Dhabi and seeing Special Olympic athletes from 92 countries or something, that just even added to it. So I've always said, and Special Olympics is the way the world should be. These are people who have no agendas. They just see you for who you are. And when do you go to a tennis tournament and when somebody hits a nice shot, the 2 players run to the net and hug each other?
It's awesome.
It's unbelievable. So Special Olympics has a very special place in my heart. And Special Olympics Virginia is unreal. So
Catherine D'Souza.
Yes.
Who was on the program on Friday.
Right, who's the new PATA executive director and doing a great job trying to get everything back into the community.
She's watching now and is giving you some props. She says, Ron is speaking the truth right now. This is so awesome. Go Ron. XO, XO, XO. The Richmond Times-Dispatch newsroom is watching the program as we speak right now. I'm going to throw this to you. Your relationship, put into perspective here, and help me with the last name. Is it the Ropp family?
The Ropp
family.
Right.
Lloyd, Chris, you're Chris's
and Sue.
best, and Sue.
Sue.
You're Chris's best friend.
Yes, he's. We became such good friends, and my relationship with Chris is just so special. And as a result, I got to know his parents so much better. And I don't know, Chris is like family to me, and I think I'm like family to them too. So my relationship with Chris has just been awesome. We've had great times in Seattle together, and we've spent time in the car together. He used to come to all my clinics, and time with him in Abu Dhabi was just so wonderful. So Chris is one of my best friends.
Throw this to you. You may be retired, semi-retired. Ron, you got the spirit and the energy and the hustle and the chutzpah of a 21-year-old man. This sport is keeping you so youthful, dude.
Well, thanks for saying that. It's just, I just have always loved the sport, and I've always loved the relationships that I've been able to create through the sport, and I hope, when I mentor new pros and I try to instill what has made me successful, and it's been community, relationships, passion, for the sport, kindness, and with those things and giving back to the sport. And when you do that, it just keeps you energized.
Sue is watching the program right now.
Sue,
who you were just talking about.
Oh.
And her family.
Okay.
She says,
"Hi, Sue."
I love you, Ron Minella.
I love you too, Sue.
I love you, Ron Minella. I'm watching the program. Sue, if you want to relay any kind words to Ron Minella, we might get this man choked up over here.
I know. I think I'm turning red right now.
It's something about the lights and the camera and the microphone that does it. It does it to me, man. I like once or twice a week I'm getting choked up on the show. It's like a therapy session. This is from David Smith. Please pass this along to Ron Minella. I brought my son to see his tournament, and we ended up watching Jack Sock play. Ron Minella and what he's doing to tennis is not only great for the sport, but like you mentioned before, Jerry, it's bringing families closer together, and it's something that we all can do that leave a lasting memory for my son. What's that mean to you?
Well, I mean, thank you for saying that. But that's what it's all about. I think that's what tennis, if used in the right way, that's what it can do. Tennis can change people's lives, and it can change family lives, and it can bring a lot of people together. And sports does that. And, and Special Olympics is the best example of that. Special Olympics has brought families and athletes together. And, I'm very touched. Thank you for saying that. It was David Smith?
It was from David. Yeah, David.
Thank you.
Look at this one right here. I'm going to show you a photo. Judah, I just texted you a photo. This is my son and I at the Boar's Head at Ron's tournament. If you could get that on screen, that would be absolutely amazing. Sue said, you have made Chris a super happy man and an even better tennis player. Sue, thank you for watching the show. I'm going to show you this photo on my phone. Our director, Judah, is about to put this on screen. This is from yesterday at your tournament. My 3.5-year-old. You have 4 kids you know, you know what these kids do, especially at age 3.5.
Oh yeah, that's just such a
You know,
great
where
age.
like they're seeing everything for the first time.
Right.
Like he's literally seeing the sport play, you know, for the first time. Okay,
Right.
and he's mesmerized. So Judah's going to get it on screen. I'm showing it to you over here.
Oh, that's great.
Okay, we spent an hour and change. Give me the thumbs up when that's on screen if you could. We spent an hour and change where he was just sitting next to me. And viewers and listeners, we're about to put it on screen here. The introduction of the sport to the next generation at a time when there is so much like digital distraction
Right.
is so paramount to the future of not just tennis, but like sports across the board. I mean, we have like kids that are like my son's generation. Some kids may rather choose to sit on a couch inside and play digital or video games or be on a phone or something
Right.
like that. I remember when I was growing up, my mom and my dad said, here's a football, here's a soccer ball, here's some tennis rackets. We grew up in an area you likely know well in Kings Mill,
Right.
in Williamsburg.
Oh, right.
And they're like, you can go to Coach Hughes and play tennis over there, okay? You can go play in the cul-de-sac, stickball, soccer. We invented this game called driveway tennis,
Yeah.
which we love to play. And that's what we did. We didn't stay inside playing video games. I mean, how paramount is it to like introducing the next generation to sports in general?
Well, it's definitely a challenge, but I think parents now are definitely trying to get their kids. They realize the negative impacts of these phones,
Right.
You know, and computer games, and they're trying to get their kids involved in all kind of sports, with soccer, t-ball, basketball, whatever, YBA, and tennis.
That photo is on screen. Yes, let's get it on screen. That's my son and I at Ron Minella's tournament yesterday. Community, get out to this tournament and watch some of the best players in the world at a tournament orchestrated by this gentleman right here. I did not mean to cut you off. The show is yours, Ron.
I don't even remember what we were talking about.
We were talking about how critically important it is.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So what we do at the Boar's Head is that we offer a lot of different programs, from introductory to 3 and 4 year olds, and a ball skills test, and then at different levels based on their age and their ability, all the way up to 18 in terms of kids. And then we have some advanced and elite programs. But the key is, you know, introducing the sport. The first job of a tennis pro is to make somebody love the game. That's your first job. And if at those ball skills tests, ball skills courses, that's the key, is that you make them laugh and have fun so that they can't wait to come back. So that 3-year-old is saying, "Mommy, when do I have tennis again?" You know, or "I can't wait I'm so lucky to go see Coach Ron again." So that's what it's all about. And now, continued, we have this ball skills program that our director of junior tennis, Ralph Steinbeck introduced, and that's what it's all about, making the kids love it. And I think that's what all sports have to do. And so the coaches need to be very positive. And those kids who are trying out for teams, you know, I don't believe anybody should cut anybody, because in tennis, so try out for the tennis team, and you practiced 10 months to try to make this team, and you got kind of good, but you weren't good enough to make the team, and then you get cut. That's usually the death of that sport for that kid. Okay, so don't cut players. Keep them, even if they could only come to practice at one time. Even if you got to go in on a Saturday and coach them, you just do it just to keep playing. So I think it's the coaches out there, whether the tennis pros, the pickleball pros, the paddle tennis pros, whatever, the squash pros.
Dean Russell, baby.
Dean Russell can do it. He knows how to make people love it.
He's got it.
Dean's got it.
Yeah, and I can offer some perspective on that. He's got my 3.5-year-old playing squawky, which is a combination of squash and hockey.
Right.
Where we use the kids' tennis ball, the colorful one.
Right.
That's softer. And we're essentially the walls, the back glass wall and the front wall that you hit into are the goals. And Trey is essentially playing hockey with squash rackets. And the game is don't let the ball hit the back wall because that's a point.
Right.
And he
just flies around there.
Just loves it. And what he's not realizing, which we all are, it's teaching him hand-eye coordination, movement, quickness, work, going laterally with his feet, going up and down. And most importantly, he's having fun.
Fun. That's the key. It's fun. And, over the years, I just want to say this, that the programming and what I've been able to do at the Boarset, I've just always had the ability to do it because I've always had the support of the Boarset, coming from the top management all the way from the foundation who's owned it. So Tim Rose and the UVA Foundation have been, Tim and Margaret had two great players. Their one son, Matthew, went on to play at Davidson. And so they had an interest in tennis for their children. And as a result, just helped the tennis just blossom into what it is now in terms of facility, because they understood the importance of tennis in the community and the world. We
got Boca Raton, Florida on the show. A lot of Wahoos down there. Marjorie Dawn Notopoulos.
Oh, yes.
Watching the program right now. She said super tennis pro on the show right now. And Rod Minella. Karen Holmes Zaborski.
Yes, that's from Western Pennsylvania.
Watching the show. Farrell, Pennsylvania, in the house right now. That's where you grew up. You got 5 states on the heat map on the program right now. I'm going to tag Kingsmill to see if we can get the Kingsmill Resort in the mix over here as well. All right, let's throw this to you. Georgia Gilmore says, "Hi, Ron. Great to see your face. Ron is awesome." Ron, this has got to make you feel great when the community is coming out like this, giving you props.
It's so humbling, it makes me feel so good. I mean, I could just feel this smile on my face. As a result, I feel the smile is like up in my upper cheeks right now. It's just so humbling, and it makes me feel so good. And just thanks to all of you who are sending these props. It's so heartwarming, and I just can't thank you enough. So thank you so much.
Michael Messier gave you some props here. Anything you want to relay to Coach, put it in the feed. Best tennis player you've been around and why? Who was it? And give us a good story that we would all love. We're all sports junkies of some kind.
Best tennis player? You mean like one of these pro guys?
Sure.
Well, I don't know. I've been really close to Nadal.
Yeah.
And Federer.
Tell us some stories.
Well, I don't know. The one story was my son Joey. I'm fortunate as a tournament director. I get credentials for the U.S. Open, so I can get in some spots where other people can't. And I'm not blowing smoke. It's one of the perks you get as a tennis director. But we were in this one spot. We just came to the tournament, and Federer was coming out, and he was kind of going through the crowd, shaking hands, signing autographs.
The greatest tennis player of all time. Would you agree with that?
Oh,
greatest?
yeah.
Okay.
I'm a Federer fan.
Me too.
Yeah, and I'm also a Nadal fan.
I'm a fan of all the guys that compete at that level. But Federer, the greatest tennis player of all time, for those that know who he's talking about.
Right. So we kind of got right behind Federer, closer than I am to you. And
that's close.
Yeah, that's close. And Joey just was right behind him. And he turned around, and Joey shook his hand. And for the next 20 minutes, Joey just couldn't control himself. His hand was shaking. So how cool is that?
That is so cool.
Shake Roger.
What'd you say to Joey?
Joey, it was really cool. He talks about it to this day, and, it's nice, like yesterday I was talking to Jack Sock,
Former number 8 in the world.
Yeah, just, so it's players like that, and I'm sure there's somebody else I've been real close to but can't think. I've been around Billie Jean King, really close, and had conversations with her, with John McEnroe. My son Dom worked for John McEnroe for a while. Monica Seles, those type of players. Been around Michael Chang. And those are all recent, last 10 years. But, and then way back when, I was still young then, but had conversations with, like, the famous Don Budge, who's, like, one of the greatest. So those are those stories. And nowadays, God, everybody's so good. So locally, there's still a whole bunch of good players. And all the kids... the elite kids at the Boar's Head are working so hard to become better. So who knows? One of these players I've coached when they were little kids. I'm through 3 generations now, so I've coached like the grandpa and grandpa, which I am one. Then I coached their kids. Okay, and now I'm coaching their kids. So it's really. It's not a sign of age, but it's more of a sign as I'm so lucky.
It's a sign that you're doing it the right way.
Yeah.
We'll get to your comments, guys. Put them in the feed and we'll relay them on air. For every Roger Federer, for every Nadal, McEnroe, Michael Chang, Andre Agassi. I mean, I grew up watching Michael Chang, and one of the things I loved about Michael Chang was this guy wasn't like a 6'4" guy who could rip it up the tee. I mean, he was not the tallest dude. He was super quick. Played with so much heart, could cover so much court, hell of an athlete.
Right.
But he wasn't this like super long guy.
Right.
That had the benefit of being born tall and long.
Right.
So I could identify it as someone with a similar diminutive stature. But for every guy like Michael Chang or a Federer or an Agassi or a Sampras, there's guys that are, for lack of a better phrase, chasing a dream.
Right.
Living out of a suitcase.
Yes, it's a tough life out there. As we were talking early, some of these guys have private sponsors. Some of them, their countries' federations, whether it's the German Tennis Federation. Some of them are sponsored by their governments, but not so much anymore. So a lot of them have private sponsors, and they can stay out there as long as that sponsor can keep giving them the money to stay out there. But yeah, like you were saying, you looked up some of these guys and they made $80,000 a year, and they probably spent $200,000 a year. Cause
think about that, guys.
Yeah, they have to fly here. Okay, it's just like today, I was driving
listen to this story.
Guy from Japan arrives from Japan yesterday, flies in. And his COVID test wasn't the right date, so I had to drive him around town to get him this COVID test. And here he's from Japan, and he's 240 in the world. He's
37 years old.
37 years old, has a private sponsor, and he's still out there.
Chasing the dream.
Chasing the dream. And there's a whole bunch of them out there, and as long as they can afford somehow to stay out there, they're going to stay out there. It's a great life, but oh my God, it's just sometimes I don't even know how they eat. I remember this one story. This is great. Elise Mertens.
Okay.
Mertens. She's from maybe Denmark. I'm not really sure, but she played in the women's tournament. I think she's in the top 10 right now. She was injured and she needed to get some clay court practice to go to the French. So she was in the women's tournament, and she was staying at a friend of mine, Dick Hoffheimer's house up on the top of Afton Mountain, and he gave her a car to drive and everything. And so her and her boyfriend, I think they're still together, it might be husband and wife now, but she said she needed to go to the store, so he told her where it was. And this is somebody who's now in the top 10. Just won, I think, Indian Wells doubles. Maybe the U.S. Open was in the finals doubles, and she's still maybe semifinals in the U.S. Open. So when she came back, with no bags of groceries, but a 10-pound bag of potatoes.
10-pound bag of potatoes?
And that's what they were eating.
Why is that?
Because she had no money.
That's what she could afford.
That's what she could afford.
That is a story.
Yeah, and a lot of those guys are that. I have no idea how they do it, you know?
Well, I mean, yesterday, to put this in perspective, yesterday at the Boar's Head, a lot of the players were arriving. Or yesterday was the opening round of qualifying.
Yeah, first round of qualifying.
Okay, so I was shocked with how many of the players who literally came straight to the courts to check in with you, their suitcases in tow.
Right.
And like their suitcases are just sitting against the wall.
Yes.
And they go straight to the court to practice.
The practice time is crucial.
Crucial.
Well, especially now because we're the first indoor tournament. Most of them are coming from Vegas. There was a challenger there, so that was outdoors. So now everybody is trying to get indoor practice time because the whole atmosphere is different inside.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Ron Minella, guys, our guest. So much I want to cover here. We'll get to your comments, your questions here. Here's a good one. This is a good one. This is from Leslie. Monica Seles, if she hadn't gotten injured, the stabbing.
Right.
How good would Monica Seles have been?
Oh, she was great. I mean, she was a grinder and played so hard. She would have definitely been much better. That was such a weird.
That was so weird.
That was so
From
weird.
the stands.
Yeah, that was the weirdest thing. I never really understood that. Thank heavens that doesn't go on anymore.
Right?
So, jeez. But Monica she's a really lovely lady. And I felt sorry for her. But still, she still had a really good career.
She had a great career.
And she had a huge following.
Throw this to you, the impact of the Williams sisters on the sport. So,
oh my God.
Go ahead, anywhere you want to go, and I'll have some follow-ups on that.
Okay, well, they were amazing. First of all, they had an unbelievable dad that just knew how to do it. I mean, he had a contract with Reebok before they even started playing. And I remember, I think it's like on one of the commercials for the TV show, or I think an HBO film that's out. And he was just saying, they were talking about Venus, but he says, well, how's it feel that you're going to have the best player in the world? And I remember he was saying, no, I'm going to have two. And I remember when he said that, and then when the commercial came out of him saying that I chuckled but of course they had such an impact. I mean, and just bringing these two smart black girls into the tennis world was just absolutely wonderful. And they've just revolutionized the sport in terms of the level of play. So anybody who had to compete against them had to get better.
Let me ask you this question. What do we need to do? And if you have questions for Ron Minella, and I'll tell you what, everyone's loving the interview. The person that might be loving the interview the most is me. I mean, I love talking sports and hearing your perspective on this stuff. What do we need to do to get, let's call them racket sports across the board, more diverse in demographics for player engagement? I mean, for so long, tennis, certainly squash, certainly paddle, platform tennis for those who don't know, have been associated with country clubs.
Right.
How do we get it to be more to the masses?
Well, it's getting there. It takes community programs to do that. And, of course, the Williams sisters helped that. And
like Tiger with golf?
Yes. And, Tiger with golf for sure, and the Williams sisters. And then, the James Blakes and all those people who were playing tennis. And then I think the Williams sisters also showed female players around the world how good you can actually get at this sport. And then so more diversity in foreign countries, they all started playing and got better. And, it's just like the sheet playing today. There's people from Great Britain, Netherlands, Japan, Canada, Austria. I mean, it just goes on. And that's the same with the women. So it's much better than it used to be. Of course, it could be better. I think pickleball is attracting an older generation, and I'm sure it's become so popular that that'll be diverse. And
I love that sport.
Yeah.
Let's talk about pickleball.
Okay.
And how it's impacted, so I brought this up with Kat, who's still watching the program, and we'll acknowledge some of the folks that are watching the show. Scott, Q, welcome to the program. Carrie, Travis, welcome to the show. Derek Anderson, hello and welcome to the program. Lonnie, Snook, hello, welcome to the show. The folks over at Greencroft, hello and welcome to the program. Sarah Stryker, who's watching in New York, welcome to the show. So, do you feel, as someone who is a tennis evangelist, do you feel threatened by pickleball?
I never feel threatened by any sport that's going to get people out there and love it and start playing. I think, pickleball has been great. It's a great sport and everybody loves it. It's easy to play, doesn't require a whole bunch of instruction. You can take instruction and to get better, but basically you could be told how to do it and you could just start playing. So that's wonderful. It's grown, I don't know, like 69% over the last couple of years. It's unbelievable.
Fastest growing sport in America.
Yeah, it's just wonderful. I think there are people who feel threatened by it. I don't ever feel threatened by it. I just think it's the growth of racket sports is the key. I think the tennis teaching pro, the tennis professional, their role will begin to change. I think they'll no longer be a tennis pro, they'll be a racket sports professional.
Hybrid. My guy George.
That's right. So you are going to be, and then you become a value to the club and for a job. So, hey, I'm certified in tennis, I'm certified in pickleball, I'm certified in paddle, I'm certified in padel, and we're in the process of trying to get squash into the mix. I'm fortunate I'm on the board of directors of the Professional Sports Registry, and pickleball is a huge part of us, and we're offering certification. And
Dean Russell just got pickleball certified.
Yes, because I got on him. I said,
you did?
Make yourself valuable. So it's the perfect thing, like for Dean. So Dean, during the pandemic, he's done. He's down. He's not making any money. So he's over the golf course working on his base salary, trying to keep that money in. But if Dean was certified in pickleball, he could have been teaching pickleball. And so I think what pickleball is doing is making the tennis teaching professional much better.
More dynamic.
More dynamic, more rounded. In our organization, the PSR, we're calling them a double threat, a triple threat, okay, when you have these certifications. So I was going to take a certification on pickleball and paddle last weekend, but my son's team was in town with ODU, so that was more important.
Multiple people are asking, what's padel? Padel, you would say, is like tennis meets platform tennis and racquetball.
Right.
And there's a lot of talk about a padel court coming to the area. Have you heard that talk?
Yes, I think Greencroft's talking about it.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that probably in there, because I've talked to them a little bit about their expansions, I think they will probably bring tennis first, get tennis courts back there, and then padel. I know also if Keswick were to expand more, they would probably, just based on the clientele and the type of resort they have out there now, they would go to a padel probably. But it's
can you explain it to
I don't know enough about it to explain
huge
it.
in Europe.
But huge in Europe.
Yeah.
But I liked your description of it, of tennis meets platform.
Yeah.
Yeah, glass wall, they could be portable, cool sport. I mean, all these, anytime you put a paddle. If you're a good tennis player or not a tennis player, you put a paddle in your hand.
You can pick it up.
You can pick it up.
Yeah, and that's why. Go ahead.
But the perfect example is my son Joey is still a very accomplished tennis player.
Is he playing pickleball now?
Yeah, there's the story. So he's out of the tennis world in terms of coaching. So he's now living up there in Crystal City. So across the street is 4-6 tennis courts, and he just goes over there and he gets play. And he's a 5'5" solid. They try to get him to play in some 4 or 5 leagues, and he does, but
he dominates, or he has to play down.
Yeah. And he loves playing tennis again. But somebody introduced him to pickleball, and oh my God, he loves it.
It's an addiction.
So he calls me all the time. So he called me the other day in the middle of the day, and he's working, and he says, "Hey, I just beat a former pickleball pro." So he's so excited. So he loves it. So it just goes to show you. And can you play both sports at the same time? Of course you can.
Of course. It's not a zero-sum game.
Yeah. Can you play squash and tennis at the same time? Yes. Can you play pickleball, paddle tennis, squash, tennis, every sport with a racket? Yes. Probably badminton's going to come.
I'm trying to play squash, racquetball, platform, tennis, and pickleball all right now.
Yeah.
Now it takes a little, it's different strokes. So that's the biggest thing is transitioning. But if you have racket and paddle skills, you can transition.
You can transition. And it's good. Just think with how mentally tough you are, or you will become when you can transition of playing tennis in the morning and
there you go.
Pickleball in the afternoon. And even for the tennis pro, it's Sunday night. Oh my God, I got 8 hours. I got 3 adult clinics. I got a couple little juniors. And I did junior clinics till 6 o'clock. So how cool is it? Okay, I got my adult clinics in the morning. I got 2 pickleball lessons, and then I'm doing pickleball in the day.
There you go.
Or then I come back and do a couple junior clinics. So I think for the teaching professional, it's even breaking up their day instead of burnout. And it's not easy to be on a tennis court for 8 hours a day.
No.
Yeah. So to have and doing the same conversation, the same programs over and over again. So I think it's just gonna. I think that triple threat guy is just gonna have a much better career. And I think if I'm a manager or a director at a club and I'm looking for a new pro, I'm looking for somebody who's certified in multiple sports.
Here's a good question from a mom. This is a challenging question.
Okay.
Melissa Wagner. Our son is 9 years old. Please ask your guest how we should work, train, and help him progress in the sport of tennis. He's very advanced for his age. I want him to play as many sports as possible. My husband is looking for him to focus on tennis more year-round. You get that a lot, don't you?
Oh, yeah. Remember, the other sports will develop different muscle groups. So a 9-year-old whose body is developing, if they center in on one sport at that time, like tennis, it could have major impact on the child's growth. There's one example of a player who was really good, who worked out at the Borsad, and she was so good, but she was very young, and her dad had her playing with UVA tennis players. She was that good, but it was her only sport. But it affected the growth of her and her development.
How so?
Shorter, weren't fully developed. So I remember a friend of mine, Mark Abel, who's a children's orthopedic, and I had him on one of my tennis tips on TV once, and he said, it doesn't matter what your child is doing, but he needs to do multiple things. And remember, that could be, he could be just playing tennis, but he also needs to be out in the yard kicking a soccer ball around, running with the dog, riding his bike, and playing other sports. And remember, these other sports create a team atmosphere.
Yeah.
And then
And prevent burnout.
yeah, and burnout. And, I can't tell you how many kids, were tennis players and then all of a sudden become a lacrosse player. But if that kid was, playing multiple sports, and then they did studies years ago on American players who have risen up to greatness, and they were all multi-sport players, kids playing a lot of multi-sports, and they tend to start to zone in where they really want to go around age 14 to 16. And then there's those special ones, the Everetts and the Agassiz, right from day one. But that's it. So if they're multi-sport or single sport, then, you really never experienced one of these things. And then all of a sudden, your friends are playing lacrosse and you try it and oh my God, I like it. And then you've wasted all that time.
Because if you think about it, there's very similar foundations between those.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the ball's moving really quick.
And
you're using a stick with a net as opposed to essentially a stick with strings.
Right.
Hitting a
a
ball.
little thing to catch it in, except, those midfielders, I think. But still, any sport, cross, Navratilova was cross-trained in basketball. They're all good cross-training. Basketball, it's all pivots. Move with the player, move with the player. It's all tennis, pivot.
What sport do you think the best athletes are playing?
Well, in the United States...
Think it's basketball or lacrosse?
Yeah, it's basketball and football and baseball because there's more opportunities. But everybody talks about...
Well, no, I meant like which sport requires the highest level of athleticism to play. Like football, it's about
one's position. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying with that?
Yeah, quarterback's different there. Yeah, basketball, they're all tough sports. God, lacrosse, those are difficult sports. I mean, name a sport and they're, golf. Jeez.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, really.
Put a ball in a hole for 560, 600 yards away?
Really?
I mean, how hard is that?
Right, and supposed to get like a 4 or a 5?
Right, so hard.
Yeah, I just don't know. I think they all require a lot of practice and, and determination. If you just look at the quotes from Coach Wooden and you look at quotes from the Michael Jordans, he practiced harder than when he played. They don't accept failure. If there's failure, it's a lesson. And it just takes an unbelievable determination and a passion to be great at your sport. And that's what it is. And it's, I guess, a lot of questions I get over the years with youth playing tennis is, how can I teach my kid to be, want it more?
Mentally tougher?
Mentally tougher, more fire in his belly to get madder, how can I get him to hate?
Are you born with that?
I think so sometimes.
Yeah.
I think it's there, and you can develop it more. And I guess it could be part of parenting, as long as it comes across positive, And then in terms of parents and their, tennis parent kid, just let the coaches do, unless you're your designated coach, let the players do the coaching.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Let the coaches do the coaching of the players.
That's it.
I'll throw this to you here, and I've thoroughly enjoyed this interview. We were going to go a half an hour, and we're 64 minutes in. That's a testament to Rob Minella. But the thing is, we could go as long as we want here. That's why people love it. It's the long-form content. Okay. A couple more things I want to throw to you. The impact of the University of Virginia's success on the national college scene and how it's impacted tennis around here. And I'll throw some firsthand perspective here. Brian Bolin, in the previous neighborhood I lived in that neighborhood. I'm talking Redfields.
Right.
We since moved to the east side of town. Brian O'Connor actually lived in Redfields too. But Samdev Devarman, we have a multi-time national champion
Right,
at the
two-time national champion.
Two-time national champion at the University of Virginia.
Right.
I mean, I remember covering this guy when I was a reporter for the sports department, and this guy was, to put it in perspective, the Ralph Sampson of tennis.
Right.
Literally.
Yeah.
And he could walk around Charlottesville, and for the most part, no one knew who he was. And he was the most unassuming, relaxed, cool, approachable dude in the world.
And he still is.
And he still is. And you let me know this when we had a talk at the board said, pursuing a music scene. I've since started following him on Instagram.
Right.
And he's a hell of a guitar player and a great vocalist.
Right.
I mean, the guy's an incredible tennis player, and he also has the talent of being a musician.
Right.
I mean, what an amazingly talented guy. How about the impact of UVA tennis and Brian Boland's of the world on how it's grown the sport in this area?
Well, it started to develop at one time. There was Brian Vahaley, was retired jersey at the men's tennis, and he was kind of like that first turn of UVA tennis. UVA men's tennis used to be the laughing stock.
Right.
And
women's.
Yeah, and I think when Mark Gilbo came here, both Boland and Gilbo just grew their sports. And remember, Danielle Collins was a two-time national champ who played for UVA. So then that's it. Once you start producing that, then they change. And Boland was a great recruiter, and some of his teams were just unbelievable. So, and a perfect example of what he's done in sports and players is J.C. Aragoni is here playing. And his last national championship they won, JC was 5 on that team, and he's now 240 in the world. Okay, so at number 5.
Unbelievable.
Yes.
Depth.
So Boland was a great recruiter. He was a great relationship builder, a great fundraiser. He just knew what he had to do. He had great associate coaches, and he really brought, high-level tennis to the community, and then it got people watching good tennis, and it helped my tournaments because I was able to give wild cards into the tournaments for a couple players. So yesterday, I think Enrique Montez beat actually JC, a former UVA player, and there's Jeffrey, I forget his last name, Schulenberg, is playing in the main draw, a UVA player. So I had a tournament for the UVA players to see who qualified. So UVA's impact on tennis and
huge.
Is huge.
Yeah.
And now that their facility, they play indoors at the Boarstead, and now their outdoor facility, where you saw that
Charlie Brown
on that awesome scoreboard, their impact has been unbelievable. And it was Boland who set up Pedroza to replace him, and Andre and Scott Brown have done a wonderful job. And it was Pedroza who hired Sarah and her staff, and so the coaching staff at UVA is terrific. So you got a player like Navarro, okay, who just was the national NCAA champ. If she stays around 4 years, Navarro is so good she could win 4. So their biggest challenge is probably going to try to
keep her from turning pro.
Keep her from turning pro. And she has the most wonderful dad who's just all about tennis and taking care of tennis players in Charleston. So that's support. So the impact UVA has, and they're so much fun to watch, and they're just great players. And the women have a great team this year, and so the men, they could produce 2 national champions.
That would be absolutely awesome.
Yeah.
Dude, I love talking sports with this guy. Ron Minella, I could spend the entire afternoon with. Joshua McLean is watching in Bloomington, Illinois. Welcome to the show. Illinois and Bloomington. We had a total of 9 different states on today's show. I want to ask you a final question, and I hope to God, I think we all do, that we get another 3 generations of you coaching here in Charlottesville and Central Virginia from you. You're so beloved and adored in this program. I want to add this, though. To have the ability to go to watch UVA, who's competing at the highest level, men and women's, play tennis, and to have the ability to see these guys, or to go to a Ron Minella tournament here. I mean, it's literally free right now until Saturday and Sunday, right?
Right.
And Saturday and Sunday, the tickets are only $15.
Right.
$15, and you're seeing some of the best tennis players out there. To have this opportunity, I literally lived this with my son and my wife yesterday, it's just awesome. My kid's 3.5. I saw him watching tennis, and he was mesmerized. And it was just a great bonding opportunity for dad and son, especially, dad is I'm a sports junkie, and I see my kid already you give this kid a bat or a ball or a racket or a club, and he's behaved. Any other time, he's like a tornado. All right, I just love what he's doing. This community, Ron, we'll close with this. This community in tennis and all the families you've gotten to work alongside and all the people. Are you 70?
70.
70 with the spirit of a 21-year-old here. What does everything Central Virginia and Charlottesville and Albemarle mean to you?
Well, like I told you, I'm just so humbled. I listen to these things, and you're reading these things to me, and I really would like to just crawl under the table. But to hear them is just so touching, and I'm going to walk out of here, and I'm going to be so thankful. The only thing I can say is thank you, Charlottesville. Thank you, Albemarle County. Thank you, Virginia. Thank you for allowing me to enter into your lives. It's meant so much to me. And I'm not done. So I'm still at it. I'm still learning. And I want to thank you for inviting me. And I've enjoyed this conversation. I'm just very touched. Thank you.
He is fantastic. Everyone is asking where the interview is going to be archived. We'll archive it on iloveseville.com. Ron Minella has made my Monday. We're lucky to have Ron Minella in this community, guys. This is the I Love Seville show, where we showcase the best of Charlottesville and Central Virginia, and I think Ron undoubtedly embodies those qualities. Thank you kindly for joining us. We will see you tomorrow at 10:15 a.m. with Real Talk on the I Love Seville network. Take care. Ron, you just made my day.
That was good.